Okay, in this video what we're going to do is now use some trigonometry to find an unknown side. So you can see I've got a right angled triangle here, and instead of knowing two sides, which I would in Pythagoras theorem, I know one side and I know one angle. And so that indicates to me that I'm going to need to use trigonometry instead of Pythagoras to solve this equation, to solve this triangle. So I'm going to have to try to solve to find out what x is. So last lesson, you'll remember our little tip for trigonometry is the phrase SOHCAHTOA. So we've got our sine being the opposite over the hypotenuse, our cosine ratio being the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and our tangent ratio being the opposite over the adjacent. So in this case, if we have a look, we've got our angle, which is 30 degrees, and we've got the opposite side and the hypotenuse side. So when we have a look at our little tips over here, you'll see I've got the opposite and the hypotenuse in the sine ratio. So that means I'm going to use the sine of 30 degrees as my ratio here for my calculation. So that means that on my next line, the sine of 30 degrees is going to be equal to opposite over hypotenuse. You'll remember from sine, it's opposite over hypotenuse. So that's going to be x over 3. Now we've got to use some algebra in order to solve this for x. So you'll remember from algebra that the inverse operation of division is multiplication. So if we want to move this 3 over to the left-hand side, we're going to have to multiply both sides by 3. So if we multiply the right-hand side by 3, we've also got to multiply the left-hand side by 3, and we're going to end up with 3 times the sine of 30 degrees being equal to x. Then we've got to go to our calculator. And so if we grab our calculator, turn them on, and then you'll enter in 3 times, and you'll see on the function buttons there's one that's called sine, so you push the sine button, and we want the sine of 30, and you'll see that it opened the brackets, so we will need to close the brackets, and then if we press enter, we get the answer 1.5, which is 1.5. So therefore we know that x is equal to 1.5. So in our triangle here, where we've got an angle of 30 degrees and an unknown side x right there, 3 times sine 30 gives us the value of x, and x was 1.5. There's an example of using the sine function, the sine ratio, to find an unknown side using trigonometry.